All right, moving on to our next Patreon request, and this one comes from Tom Hibbert, who asked me to do a Patreon request involving Doctor Who and Tomb Raider. As always, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link in the description box below, head on over to Patreon, hit the third tier, that'll access to do so. Anyway, so without further ado, let's get started with the video. So, this story is, like I said, Doctor Who and Tomb Raider crossing over. But we're going to do something a little fun here, because we're going to go Last Doctor instead of a modern-day Doctor. And you know what? I've done a lot of videos of other Doctors, but I haven't done one with Tom Baker's Doctor yet, so we're doing Baker. This is Doctor number 4. So, let's get started. So basically, the Doctor and Sarah Jane are just coming off from another adventure, and the Doctor's just like, we have a good old time. Let's keep another adventure going. And Sarah, I've got nothing else better to do. Let's, Doctor's choice. Where you want to go? So the Doctor travels, and he ends up and is like, you know what? Let's actually have a little break. Like, let's go on a timeline where, a time period where everything was kind of stable. And that being the 1990s. So, and she's like, the 1990s? I wasn't born yet. And he's like, oh, don't worry, it was kind of a boring timeline. And they're like, yeah, why, really? The 1990s weren't exciting? And he's like, oh, there were some things going on in the early 90s and some economic stuff. But for the most part, it was a pretty solid timeline. Nothing completely major happened. So basically, the Doctor takes her to 1994. And from there, when they stop there, they actually end up at in Brazil, and he goes, well, we're in the right year, but, I wanted to take you to, 1990s, LA, something nice, but, okay, it's the right time. It's the right... And Sarah Jane's like, oh, well, we always have an adventure for something. And as they're, walking around the area, they realize it's a campsite. And sure enough, it's a campsite of several, treasure thieves, who immediately draw AK-47s on the Doctor and Sarah Jane and, capture them and bring them to back to their camp. So they're just like, are you guys spies? Are you guys also archaeologists? They sound British like the other person we found. And the Doctor's like, oh, I'm sorry, we're kind of on our own thing. If you could just let us go. No, and take the stupid box with you. So they get captured, they get brought to the camp, where they actually meet Laura Croft. Where Laura has already been captured and whatnot, but the thing of it is, she's not an idiot. We know Laura. She's already been... she's been in situations like this before, and she's like, look, I was actually down here in Brazil looking for a lost temple that was said to be from some civilization that was older than any of the Mesoamerican tribes. Basically, it was a temple that was said to be, hold some kind of secret of the universe, and the Doctor's like, secret of the universe? Well, now I'm really interested. Can you, would you kindly point me in the direction of, where said thing could, where said, temple is? And she's like, well, I didn't know where it was. I only had half the map, but our guests have, the ones who captured us, they had the other half. So Sarah Jane's like, oh, so you willingly let yourself get captured so you can find your way to this temple. And she's like, yeah, right. So so Laura had the other half, and she's keeping that directions to herself. And the next day, the team of treasure hunters take Sarah Jane, the Doctor, and Laura to through the jungle and further into the temple. And as they're talking, the Doctor and Laura are talking. He's like, so you're a archaeologist? And she goes, kind of. I'm more of a treasure, a purveyor of treasures, shall we say? And he's like, either way, you're an archaeologist. I'm a time traveler. I point at archaeologists and laugh. And she's like, uh-huh, you're crazy. He's like, oh, I've been told that too. So eventually they do get taken to the to this temple. And right away, this temple, the Doctor's already like, well, this looks interesting. I don't know what to make of it, but this probably, we shouldn't be here. Like, this is something that should not, like, we shouldn't do this. Like, this is something, like, we shouldn't, this feels wrong. Like, this definitely feels like something is amiss here, but I can't put my finger on it. However, like, the treasure hunters are, you know, not listening, so they force them in there, into this temple, and as the Doctor's, like, looking at all the temple and all around him, he's, like, getting more and more of this sense that there is something very wrong here, and we should not be here, especially not the TARDIS. So, as they go further into it, all they're finding are, like, these statues everywhere, and as they're keeping lights on them, the Doctor's, like, tells Sarah Jane and Laura, you know, don't take your eyes off the statues, no matter what, stay in the light, and stay on alert. And they're like, why? And he's like, I think I know where we are, and we shouldn't have come here, let alone bring the TARDIS this close to what this is. So, it's eventually revealed that, yes, this temple, it's not a temple at all. It was a tomb. It was a prison for the angels, for the weeping angels. And for shits and giggles, this is the first time I would say the Doctor has encountered the weeping angels. Like, he's already heard, like, he's heard stories about the angels, like, he's heard about, like, but he never met them until now. Like, he basically was like, you know, I've heard stories of the ultimate predator, of these creatures, the lonely assassins throughout the galaxy, and even the Gallifreyans were afraid of them. They were like, my people were afraid of what they were and where they came from, and we basically were like, yeah, never encounter one, and we need to get out of here for a multitude of reasons. They're like, why? One, we cannot. Yeah, the Doctor basically says, like, straight up, we cannot, above all else, let the angels find the TARDIS, because the damage they could do could switch off the sun. These creatures feed off of time, your life. And sure enough, the other treasure hunters, the trio were captured by, start going missing. Like, they're, like, vanishing one by one, because they're not following the rules with the angels. They're just getting captured one by one. And the Doctor is even, like, trying to, like, convince everyone, is like, these statues are dangerous. They're, you know, they're nothing short of, of monsters. So, for God's sakes, you know, keep your eyes off them. Don't, you know, don't look away. And above all else, don't blink. So, the Laura at this point is like, after seeing what the angels can do, she's like, yeah, I'm gonna trust what this Doctor what this Doctor has to say. And eventually, the Doctor and Laura and Sarah Jane are, like, the only ones left by the end of it, and the angels are, like, circling around them. Until eventually the Doctor, like, basically says, like, you know what I am, don't you? You've been, you're not interested in feeding off of these humans. You're interested in me and what I have. You know, that's what you really want. You want to escape with the TARDIS and feed off the time energy within it. So tell you what, you let us live, and we'll let you feed on the energy. And Sarah Jane's like, what are you doing, Doctor? And he's like, just trust me on this. So the angels let them go and start following them towards the TARDIS. But however, Laura had been doing some reading on the temple and knew there was a failsafe. So just as they're about to leave the temple, they basically Laura activates the trap to seal the temple and keep the angels trapped inside of it. And she's like, good, we killed them. And he's like, you can't, I'm sorry to tell you, Laura, but you can't kill a stone. Those creatures are in there, and God, and heaven help us all if they ever find their way out. So the Doctor lets her into the TARDIS to, like, give her a ride back to Britain, and she's just like, good Lord, it's bigger on the inside. He's like, I love it when they do that. So the Doctor offers to, like, take her back home, and Laura is just like, thank you, Doctor, and all that, and I hope we cross paths again. And he's like, maybe we will. But yeah. So there you go, guys. That is the Doctor Who Tomb Raider crossover. I want to thank Bill McLaughlin for this Patreon request, as well as continued patronage, and you guys tell me in the comments below what you guys think of it. Comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.